will. So thanks for joining us today as we are gathering in regards to our LFPP, which is Renewing the Countryside's Local Food Promotion Program project. This particular one is named Fortify and Multiply Farmers Market Hubs to improve community health and farm viability. So really what we're trying to do is build community food systems within each of the communities that have been selected in our organization. We have 10 farmers markets across the state that we're looking at working with. And I just wanted to share with you some of what's happening. Before I get too deep into it, I'd like to start by just going around and introducing everybody that's on the call so that you know who's here. I'm Sarah George. I am with Renewing the Countryside, but I'm also a farmer. I was the previous market manager for the Wabasha Farmers Market and am the current Farmers Market manager for the Red Wing Farmers Market. And Melissa, I'm going to pass it to you just to introduce maybe the community you're in from and what farmers market you could potentially be working with.
Well, my name is Melissa Huffman. I am a public health nurse. I work for Brown County Public Health. I am an RN public health nurse. And I also am part-time ship staff for Brown County. Kristen Friedrichs, who's on this call, will introduce herself later, but she's the ship coordinator for Brown Nicollet LeSueur Waseca. And I primarily work with the farmers market in New Ulm.
Okay, great. Tina, I'm going to call on you next.
I'm Tina Malone. I'm the Wabasha County Ship Coordinator, and I've been working with Wabasha Farmers Market, Sarah, and Renewing the Countryside is also on our community leadership team. And I've been working with Lake City Market by the Lake.
All right, Hannah, how about you?
Hi, everybody. I am Hannah Colby with Aiken County Public Health. I work as a registered dietitian for WIC Health Educator and their statewide health improvement partnership coordinator. And I am currently partnering with the Aiken Farmers Market and their Aiken Food Hub.
Great. And Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen Friedrichs. I work for Brown Nicollet LeSueur and Waseca County Public Health, as Melissa mentioned. So my primary focus might be on Nicollet County, which is the St. Peter, North Mankato area. And we border Mankato. Mankato is actually in a bordering county. So if that gives you a frame of reference.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, and Shannon.
Sure. Hi, I'm Shannon Kessner, the tribal liaison with the Department of Agriculture, and I'm just glad to be here to learn what you're all up to and see what I can provide from my perspective.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anna.
Hi everybody, I'm trying out this new headset, so hopefully you can hear me okay. I feel like it's very awkward. I'm getting used to it. I'm Anna Oldenburg. I'm with Olmsted County Public Health, ship coordinator there for Olmsted County, and likely mostly working with our village, getting our village farmers market up and running, and maybe Sarah Rochester Farmers Market. I'm not sure yet, so here to learn.
Fantastic. And Lillian.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lillian Otieno, and I am with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. I am currently the Emerging Farmer Outreach and Engagement Coordinator for the new Emerging Farmers Office, which is situated at the Commissioner's Office here at the MDA. So working with emerging farmers to address some of the gaps and needs and the issues that impact emerging farmers within our state. And we also do have an emerging farmers working group that convenes to provide recommendations to the commissioner, which we then translate into recommendations to the legislature on issues that are impacting emerging farmers. So happy to be here.
Such important work. Thanks, Lillian. Jan.
Hi, I'm Jan Joanitas, and I am with Renewing the Countryside, and live down here in Southeast Minnesota. And in addition to working with this project in a professional role, also have been a volunteer at the Rochester and the Wabasha Farmers Markets with the aggregation project.
Awesome. And Kathy.
Kathy Zeman, Minnesota Farmers Market Association. If Mankato joins, I'll be helping mentor that market hub. Knock on wood, they will join us. And I'm a farmer, and I'm the volunteer treasurer for the Cannon Valley Farmers Market, which may take a look at hub work in a year or two.
Thanks, Kathy. And Kathleen.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Rickes, and I'm an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer with Renewing the Countryside and the Southern Minnesota Initiatives Foundation. So I'll be helping out with the Food Hubs project and probably helping a variety of markets across the state, all of them that they'll be serving, and focused on the southern Minnesota counties and areas.
Awesome. We have quite a team here. There are additional SHIP coordinators that are going to be connecting and engaging in many ways, but I want to first start by introducing you to the project. So what the LFPP is, kind of where our hubs originated, and the best way to do that is with PowerPoints. I know PowerPoints get old and sickening, but these ones have some really good photos that help you have a better understanding of what we're talking about. When we're talking about these food hubs and farmers markets being food hubs. So I'm just going to do a quick run through of what a farmers market food hub is, so that you have a better understanding. So here is our farmers market food hub, or here's an example of what a food hub is. Here's a couple of vendors that are existing at some farmers markets. And a food hub, this idea started way back, way in the beginning. I was personally the market manager and also a vendor at the Wabasha Farmers Market. And as a manager, we had loyal customers that were coming every week, and they were greeting vendors. We had vendors that were just so committed, but there always seemed to be an abundance of produce left over at the end of the market. And I started noticing my farmers taking their arm across the table and sweeping that produce into one big 5-gallon pail that they were taking home to feed the pigs. It just blew my mind. With local food growing in popularity and institutional buyers like schools, hospitals, and healthcare facilities looking for ways to gain access to it, I couldn't understand why they were just dumping this into a bucket to feed to the pigs. Personally, I began blaming myself as the manager, and I started looking for alternative resources to help these farmers sell this product. I reached out to this awesome team. Jan and Kathy and I are all on here. Jane will be joining us shortly. And I wanted to see if we could put our heads together and figure out ways that we could work something out for this at a farmer's market level. We did. Our goal was to create a food hub right there at the farmer's market where we could aggregate or combine the produce from schools to sell to those schools, hospitals, and restaurants to make those different purchases. Not only did this team do it, but we also wrote up fact sheets and worked through regulations with the regulators side by side while we were putting this together. Now, we worked with the Department of Agriculture because while the food is in our hands, we had to work with the Department of Agriculture, but we knew full well that the minute we stepped into any school, hospital, or restaurant, we would have to work with the Department of Health. So we took the steps and did that as well, just to be proactive on those conversations. This is what a food hub, if you wanted to have a picture of what a food hub looked like, this is what it would kind of look like. So you've got your farmers and your makers and bakers and creators on the left side of the screen here that will be able to put the dollar amount on what that value of the product is that they want to sell. On the right side of the screen, you're going to see that we're selling it to schools, hospitals, restaurants, and individuals in the community. So retail is also an opportunity here. We, the Farmers Market Food Hub, are in the middle. We are going to be taking the products from the farmers and distributing those to schools, hospitals, restaurants, and retailers throughout the community. So you're going to see the farmers, they're going to list their price, they're going to get that price. The buyers are going to see it with a little bit of markup. So on this particular hub, the example, it's an 18% markup. So they're going to see that item at $1.18. And it's that simple. Wabasha Farmers Market became the first farmers market in the state of Minnesota to receive what's called a wholesale food handler's license, where we could aggregate produce through the farmers market in 2017. And this was a huge day because we were originally told, no, we're not eligible for this. So this was a really big thing. Once we got that, we applied for a specialty crop block grant with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture and received funding in all 2018, 19, and 20. Our goal here was not to just get Wabasha licensed, but we wanted to replicate this across the state and then figure out what the impacts were for any of the people that were involved in this. In 2022, right now, currently, these are the locations of those existing farmers market hubs. The blue dots are the ones that are working with us in this project. The green dots are hubs that we began working with that have stepped away from the project, but are still continuing moving that project forward. Our orange dots are on the bubble. There is a blue dot under Rochester, Anna, don't worry, there's one down there. But the orange dot is that farmers market, the Rochester Farmers Market. The village is in, the Rochester Farmers Market is not. But Mankato is on the bubble. So here's the current hubs that we're working with. We did want to test the benefits for our farmers that were working in this project and find out how it impacted them. Now, we worked with the University of Minnesota when we were beginning to set this project up. So with working with them, they helped us train our farmers on food safety aspects like water testing, writing on farm food safety plans, getting some good agricultural practice training in there. But they also increased their benefits and their sales. So a lot of good benefits for having our farmers. Benefits for having those markets, they had increased sales for their vendors. Throughout this project, we continued working with MDA, so the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Health. So there was a vast knowledge of food rules and regulations that our markets had learned when working with this. Plus, they were developing a lot of relationships within their own community. Benefits with buyers. So our buyers were able to see this as a one-stop shop. Basically, they're used to ordering from Bix or Cisco, and in a one quick invoice, a smooth purchase order, and it was done. They can now do that online with local farmers. So it was able to help connect them with farmers in their community. They could support local in their own community in a much easier fashion. There we go. We saw benefits in our own communities. They had increased access to nutrient-dense local foods. They could support healthy eating efforts and so many more ways. They were able to engage with those farmers and build a stronger local food shed. And that was an awesome way that we could impact those communities. Now it comes to SHIP, and how does that come into the picture? How does building this community come into that picture? And how can you connect in your communities? I'm going to share what happened with the Parsnip pilot. So Parsnip, you know, everybody likes acronyms. Parsnip is the pilot to accelerate regional support for nutrition between institutions and producers. So basically, somebody was the go-to person between the farmers and the food service directors in the community to help engage and make purchase order or local food orders happen in a community. So I'm just going to share what we learned with that as a part of this and how that impacted our pilot down here. So here's some fun photos. For those of you that aren't aware of Farm to School has three core elements. They have procurement, school gardens, and education. Oftentimes when people think about Farm to School, they think about that procurement piece, and that's where they get stuck. But there are some additional, I think of it as a three-legged stool. So for the procurement, this is when local foods are purchased, promoted, and served as meals, snacks, or taste tests in your community. And this is obviously a great way to support farm to school. But for this is also, so school gardens is an important piece of it too. So you want to encourage hands-on learning through school gardens by just getting their hands in the dirt and teaching them, planting those seeds. And then of course that education piece is where children and students participate in educational activities that are related to agriculture, food, health, and nutrition. Maybe they're doing a farm tour or a visit on a farm. Maybe the farmer's coming to the classroom and they're planting little seeds. Great ways that we can engage. And farm to school is a win-win for everybody in the community. It provides healthier students. It provides happy farmers that have funding, and communities have a lot of resources. Personally, I just love farm to school. It can happen anywhere and it looks different in every community. And you just have to keep your eye out and help guiding and supporting that. It sounds fantastic. So why isn't this happening everywhere? We started asking questions like, who does your ordering? How often do you order? What days of the week do you like to place your orders? What days of the week do you prefer your deliveries? And finally, what's your biggest obstacle to sourcing local? I'll start with the buyer obstacles. Just imagine you're working in the school kitchen and it's your job to place the orders for the week. You have to reach out to 10 farmers to find enough tomatoes for your planned meal. No one has spinach. You have 6 farmers delivering the potatoes. John likes text, Jane likes email, Joe likes it when you call him. And you have to stop what you're doing every time a farmer arrives at the back door because the schools are locked during business hours and you have to be buzzed in. Each farmer's handing you a unique invoice. How much time do they have dedicated to support a local farmer? Plus, there's confusion about whether or not product of the farm is an approved source. Just know that product of the farm is legal and an approved source for purchasing. Please, if that's the only thing you take away from today, please help spread that news. Next is the reality for the farmers. We met with farmers at farmers markets and throughout several different communities. Farmers are incredible in the field. They have the ability to grow and harvest crops, a diverse set of crops in our short Minnesota summers. But they don't have time to leave the farm to develop relationships with buyers, to deliver products, or to set up at 3 different farmers markets every single week. They know about farmers markets, but they're unsure about wholesale accounts. They're unsure about pricing. They have concerns about quantities, and simply establishing relationships makes them nervous. Pack standards are something they've never even considered or thought about in the past. And with so many questions, it's just easier to back away. We heard them and we listened, but we didn't want to stop there. We have and will continue asking more questions. Here on this panel, we had what we called the muddling session, and I recommend this in every single community. This is 2 farmers. You have a food service director, a superintendent, and a principal. There's 3 different schools represented here, and then Brett, who loves to do the speed dating. But we were sitting here, we called it muddling because we were just kind of walking through obstacles when it comes to farm to school. It doesn't impact just the farmer. It doesn't impact the food service director only, or a superintendent or the principal. There's different impacts that it has on everybody in that process. We started by simply just asking the schools, can you fill out this product checklist of things that you would be interested in ordering? And we asked our farmers the same thing. And that gave us a starting point. The schools learned what was available locally. The farmers learned what they could or should grow more of. But more importantly, we had a better understanding of each other's challenges. We heard how farmers could tell when a tomato couldn't tell. Okay, try that again. The farmers could tell when the tomatoes are coming, but couldn't tell when exactly they would be ripe, because that was really tricky to gauge. You could look down the row and you could see that there was tomatoes on the plants, but you don't know exactly when they're going to be ripe. And you have to list your products on the platform a full week before you are ready to harvest those, right? We heard that schools needed time to prepare the foods. Timing is everything in the school. So if coring, washing, and chopping that lettuce from a local farmer took too much time, they wouldn't have a meal ready to serve. And you can't really look at the students standing with their lunch trays and say, hang on, guys, it's just about ready. You just don't have that option. And then we went where no one wants to go, pricing. It seems like the elephant in the room. And we wanted to be fully transparent with each other. So we shared price lists. We went around farmers markets and asked exactly what was being priced at farmers markets. But then we asked our schools and a couple of restaurants what they had for pricing. And then we crossed off items that just didn't make sense. If the pricing was just totally off base, then we didn't even offer that as an option for our institutions. But you'll know what else we started noticing was that, like, look at the cucumbers on the bottom row. They were more cost effective from the local farmers market, even at farmers market pricing. For farm to school to work, you need to have a starting point, and start thinking about baby steps along the process. Maybe not looking at every component of the meal, but just thinking through, maybe it's just the salad bar items or the summer meal program, or just the fruit and vegetables that you're offering for the day. But then we looked at things like the preparation time and identified what came the same from Bix and Cisco as it does from the local farmer. And that's what came up with this list of 10 products from the farmers. It gave us a great place to start for anybody that's trying to get farm to school in your community. This is a great way to begin the conversation because it's not adding extra staff to the school, and it's not as complicated for the lunch ladies to grasp. We did engage with more than just the food service directors. We had Chip, so Tina came and was engaged, and she was helping us prepare this meal. We had local chefs and principals, superintendents, garden experts that helped prepare this meal. And we went on farm tours. Look, there's Tina. I know Megan was in on this farm tour. Anybody that's actually seen the farm has a better grasp of understanding what the farmers are going through. When you get to see it firsthand, it helps you understand what it means when you're placing those orders. And so it really helps seeing what's taking place. There's Megan, one of our ship coordinators, engaged. Who doesn't love seeing animals? So this is Hidden Stream Farms down in Elgin, Minnesota. And this day they actually had, of course, 3 pigs that had escaped. And I think I got several emails the following day saying that their favorite part of the day was watching those 3 little pigs that were running around the farm trying to get back in. So a farm tour is a great way to engage community buyers, restaurants, schools, and hospitals in getting that out there. And who doesn't love a pasture walk? It's pretty powerful when you've walked through the pasture and see how the eggs are collected and seeing the chickens that are out in the pasture. Having conversations with the farmers about their SOPs through the process, asking those farmers questions. Farmers have so much passion for what they're doing. You can see that they're not in it to be millionaires. They're in this because they care. They care about their community. They care about the food that they're serving. This is Eric. He is the principal for St. Felix School in Wabasha. Eric saw that I was trying to make a delivery here, and I was making this delivery before the food service director got in one Tuesday morning, and he said, "Hey, sir, I'll let you in over there." Why did he do that? Because he knew from the start the goals that he was involved from the start. Because local food matters, and he knew that. He knew ways that we could begin working together. We had to become a team. We did share a meal together, and it was wonderful. We actually cooked it together and shared it together. Farm to School is a chance to learn, teach, and grow. And we did all of this online. So a lot of this happened through a platform. We're going to be using Open Food Network, where you can see online. That's part of this LFPP, this local food promotion program, where we're going to get all 9 of these farmers markets online so that they can, it's very transparent. You can see the products that are available. And if there's different order cycles or different variants, you're going to be able to see that all. There's full transparency about how much you have in the cart, what that cost is, who the farmer is that's providing that food. And you can see what's in your cart and pay all of your farmers in one click by doing a checkout. And our institutions can do the same. We had some lessons that we learned. When we first started this project, we wanted to sell only to schools, hospitals, and restaurants and increase those wholesale sales. But farmers were hesitant to get on because they already had some existing sales channels. Buyers didn't order weekly because there wasn't a lot of farmers on the platforms. But when COVID hit, we were ready for that retail pivot. And my goodness, it was amazing. We had over $300,000 in sales go through the platforms in 2020. We were leading national presentations and webinars for the Farmers Market Coalition and helping other farmers markets do that pivot to retail as well. And in 2021, when that came, we were seeing that so many people wanted to be back in person. They were ready to be outdoors at the farmers markets. And we wanted to find some methods to bring those sales back to those 2020 numbers. A couple of the creative ways that we came up with to do that was through market share boxes, institutional sales, and Veggie RX. I'm going to run through what that is, and then we'll go together and chat. So, how to connect in the community through market share boxes. A market share box is an aggregated CSA. A CSA is a community-supported agriculture. So what we're doing is combining produce from multiple farms and putting it into one box, either for a weekly subscription or maybe for a bi-weekly subscription, or perhaps that would be for like Aiken did. They did 265 aggregated market share boxes funded by their Administration for Community Living. There was 8 meals worth of produce in these boxes, but the focus was on the elderly. I'm getting a note that my connection is unstable. Can you guys hear me? Shoot. Am I good?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Thank you. The collaboration in Aiken was with the Food Hub, the County Coordinating Area Resources Effectively, the Administrative for Community Living, local farmers. I'm sure that Hannah, you were a part of this with the SHIP coordination as well. And then down here in Wabasha, we did what's called the Veggie RX. And Veggie RX was a collaboration with the local hospital to implement this. So Amy Sepoya here was a integrative health and wellness pharmacist who helped us walk through how to connect and engage with communities in Veggie RX. We received support from Hunger Solutions and from our local SHIP. So Tina helped us with this one. In 2020, we did this, but we did this with $10 vouchers each week with 10 participants, and we bumped that up to $20 a week in 2021. And we invited 40 participants and ended up with 32 weekly participants in the community for this one. Those both were for 8 weeks. We did request that there was 3 meetings offering both in-person and virtual. So here was a portion of them that chose the in-person, but you can see up on the screen, we had all of our virtual guests as well. They had to do these orders online. We provided educational materials weekly, had a Facebook group, and got that funding, like I said, from the local hospital, Hunger Solutions, and our Statewide Health Improvement Partnership to support this. The meetings were awesome. Here's some of those educational materials that we provided or that we worked with. This Facebook page was really fun to watch. There was a lot of posts going on saying, hey, check out what we got, and encouraging others to try new things. I love this one on the left side. I'm going to attempt to make eggplant parmesan for the first time. And then dragon's tongue beans and new items that were purchased on the right. So there was trying new foods, sharing recipes, which was fun. Of course, I love this photo of Eric, so I threw it in. But because of this, having Veggie RX in our community got more farmers engaged on the platform, because the farmers were now listing the products, which then brought our community back. So we started getting a lot of orders from our local restaurants. I had 5 local restaurants ordering from us because all the farmers were listing the products. I had 4 different schools that were placing orders from the platform. because the farmers were listing their products online, and it was great. So those are just a few of our examples that I just wanted to share with you. And I'm going to stop my share there and see. I first want to start by asking from each of you sort of what I'm going to start. So I know some of our existing hubs. So Aiken, we have 4 existing hubs participating in this project. So that would include Wabasha and Red Wing. It includes Aiken and Grand Rapids. But we have 5 new hubs coming on right now. So our new hubs are going to include Moorhead, Wilmer, Virginia. Help me out, Kathy. Moorhead, Wilmer, Virginia.
Hopefully Mankato, and then the village. The village.
Thank you. The village down in Rochester. So those are our 5 new hubs. Sorry. Ooh. So in those communities, we don't have to implement each and every piece. Each of our hubs are trying to determine what their place in this role is going to be. Is it going to be having retail sales? Is it going to be wholesale sales? Are they going to be doing market share boxes? Are they going to be doing the Veggie RX? Are they going to be working through, there's so many different opportunities. When you're, farm to school was the other one. How can we help connect? How can we engage with this? And how can we support them? We found that with the support of our local statewide health improvement partners, it's a lot easier because you have that guidance. It's nothing to do with the financial support as much as it is working on the supporting them by sharing the news. So you guys are so incredibly amazing by going out and touching base with each of the organizations in the community. Maybe it's the local schools, or you're working with hospitals or grocery stores or gas stations. Maybe you're working with the Head Starts through different programs. And if you're there, if you can share that you know that there's a food hub in the community and a great way to come up and support the local farmers, connect them with the healthy eating options, because local food has so much, it's so nutrient dense. Veggie RX was such a fun one in our community. And I was surprised. It's really complicated because when you're going to get funding for like a Veggie RX program, one of the challenges that I had in Wabasha, for example, was that a lot of the funding was tied to giving those funds to low-income clients in the community. And it's kind of awkward as a market manager to say, are you a low-income client that would qualify? And surveys feel like an awkward way to do that. But with each of you as statewide health improvement partnerships, one of the things that you could do would be to connect us to the WIC and social services and public health and the food pantries. Maybe it's the community care clinics that are in each of the communities, and help us get the participation for those Veggie RX programs that would help us get participation in those programs. I've said a lot. What am I missing, Jan? How I call you as you stand up, sorry. Sorry about that.
I don't know. I think you hit it all.
Tina, what do you have on your mind? I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, do you have funding for the new farmers markets that are starting up with the hub activity? Do you have funding for all of their needs? Or is that something that they're looking for yet?
We have funding for the new markets for staff time, for tents and hand wash stations. But what we don't have funding for is if we were to get, let's say, Veggie RX up and running to help support some of those different things. A lot of our locations, so in Wabasha, we received SHIP funding for a CoolBot trailer. So a trailer that has the CoolBot in it. And CoolBot means that we have refrigeration on site. That's really super helpful. And that would be amazing. I did talk to several farmers markets this morning just to find out what needs they had. And several of them stated that they would love to have a CoolBot trailer on site so that they could expend the time. What that allows them to do is keep food at temp. So that would be something to have on your radar that they're going to be potentially talking about that could be beneficial for these markets to do. But funding is definitely a piece of it, that any support that you can help with. But it's not necessarily the financing. Yes, that's a piece of it.
So yeah, I hear that you're saying that SHIP can have a part outside of funding, but I know, especially with COVID, some counties have not gotten rid of all their mini grant funding. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but they haven't spent down all of their mini grant funding. So SHIP coordinators, please keep in mind. And if you have questions for me in regards to what might be what we've supported, you're welcome to, or read in the stories here too. So there's different ways we can help. Wabasha County has spent down all their mini grant funds for this grant cycle, but I don't think that all of them have. So
Thank you. And I want to find in the chat, here is our Farmers Market Hub website that I'm dropping in the chat. I just want to show you guys a couple different things on this site. So we do have a site that shows the different hubs and where it's taking place, but in here is our couple things I want to share with you. So here's the LFPP under 4 managers. And in here, we have each of our hub managers, the introduction that I'm sorry, I don't know. The origin of the hubs is the PowerPoint that I just walked you through. You're going to see that there. You're going to see, if you want to see what our objectives and our deliverables are, that's in here. And we do have some expenses that are covered in it, and we're transparent about it. So here's the expenses that we are covering when it comes to this, but there are things that aren't covered in here, like that refrigeration. There's, boxes. If you're doing market share, those market share pieces is really helpful. Any promotion that you can help with. And also, oh gosh, there's so many different things I could think of that would be so beneficial for our hub. So reach out if you're like, hey, I have some funding. Definitely don't hesitate to ask how you can support your local hub. We have been collecting, and I did this morning, kind of a wish list from several of our markets, and I'm going to continue doing that throughout the week as I work with the other hubs. But this website here has a lot of info that I just want to bring you guys to. You can bookmark this website. It's got so many documents in here. One thing that we have done, and I'm going to show it to you, is we've created this Farmers Market Hub manual. So know that there is resources. I think that's this one, so I don't have to open it up. Know that there's resources out here to help support our hubs as they're going through this process. And if they come and ask you questions, because one of the roles that we're going to ask for our local SHIP coordinators to do is to support them in the community. I'm going to go back to the website. I hate jumping around, I really do. But I think that seeing that SHIP, is there an intro? There is. This one, I think, would help you first. And this one has our objectives, which is to create an operation. How do you view it? Slideshow. I'll just do it this way. Sorry about this. This one has our objectives. So talking about how we're going to create the 5 new hubs and work with the 5 existing hubs. This one also has what our goals are. So increasing those sales, improving our efficiency and increasing those sales, collaborating with SHIP and other community partners so we can increase the purchasing of local foods, and then diversifying those market channels. Usually farmers markets are only retail. So if we can diversify them in our communities and develop sustainability plans so that they can do this long term, and then sharing it in the communities. And this PowerPoint here, I'm actually going to encourage you. You saw me pull it right off of our website. But this has got actually our outcomes of what we're going to be doing and how this is going to shake out. So this is our project team with Dan and Jane and Kathy and myself. But we're working with these hubs and with some communication leads on outreach. The Department of Agriculture is engaged with this and doing some research. And this is where you guys come into this. So the hub coordinator and the market manager could be the same person, but it might be two different people. The farmers market manager is going to be working with the farmers along with the household consumers, and the hub coordinator is going to be working with those schools, hospitals, restaurants, grocery stores, and assisted livings, maybe daycares. The SHIP coordinators, you guys have contacts within those hunger reliefs and food shelves and social service agencies. So you guys are going to create the team with your markets in that in your community. Each of the markets do have expectations. Obviously, we're working with grant funding, and so we said we're going to do things, and we need to continue to do those. So getting licensed and getting on an online platform, having monthly meetings and recruiting farmers and buyers is going to be a piece of it. But they are required to help work with each of you as SHIP coordinators and develop some new pathways in the community. We are doing sustainability plans as we speak. So having that conversation, now is a great time to start that conversation and that connection with your farmers market manager or hub manager. We are looking at doing events. So farmer buyer meetings, like you saw, maybe it's a farm tour, maybe it's a speed dating in a community that's going to take place, and then attending that Food Finance Institute, which did take place earlier this month. And this is what we envisioned taking place with our local statewide health improvement partnership. So connecting as you're meeting with the local school or grocery store, or healthcare facility, you can mention what's taking place at the farmers market and talk to who you believe, connect who you believe should be connected with the local hubs. Maybe you can help us develop those pathways so we don't have to have that uncomfortable conversation about whether or not the client is qualified to receive some of the programs we're working on. You guys are wonderful. I love SHIP coordinators are so good at outreach and promotion. So websites, Facebook pages, stories in the newspaper are just amazing. And that's one thing that I wish I did better. It's something I don't find myself amazing at. And then if you see grant funding, if you see grant funding out there and you think that that would be beneficial, maybe you're looking for funding for Veggie RX in a community, and you know that XYZ Foundation could help provide some grant funds for that Veggie RX program. Throw that out there as an option anytime you see that to your coordinator as they're trying to fund their opportunity. We do have monthly check-in calls. Tuesday, are they the second Tuesday of every month? Maybe. I'll come up with that shortly. And then we're developing an annual plan in every community. So once a year, we'd love for you to sit down with your local farmers market manager and hub manager. This is an example of the funding needed to go through the Grand Rapids community. So about 50% of their funds came to run this project came from their sales. So earned revenue that happened in their community. So maybe it was their market share boxes, their retail and wholesale sales, you know, that 18% markup that we talked about. But 34% came from donations, sponsorships, and grants. And so keep that in the back of your mind as we're looking through this. And then the Department of Agriculture provided some cost share and some reimbursements that we were able to use. There was a little bit of funding that came from other sources, but helping your markets come up with that funding is really helpful. And we're hoping that you would be a great asset to help us, or a resource as we're doing that. We're not saying that it has to be SHIP funding. Any part of SHIP funding would be great, but that would be helpful. We are providing each of the new hubs, each of these different items, licensing boxes, scales, tents, a hand wash station. All hubs annually are getting some support. So some printed material, advertising, the online platform, we're covering that cost. Some delivery and traveling to the Minnesota Farmers Union for our annual meetings is going to take place. And there's some of the eligible marketing expenses that are going to be available to them. And then of course, our staffing for our farmers market. So there is staffing available as they go through this. So that part is covered. Okay. Because of that, the other piece I wanted to hit on was that the market manual is available. And there's so many resources on our website. But I feel like I'm doing a ton of talking and I want to see, is there any, so those are the SHIP pieces. So outreach, education, and resources, just giving them guidance and promoting this happening in your community is what we're really hoping for. Many of you signed a letter of support stating that you would match or you would provide some in-kind tracking. I have put this together and I have to move this bar. That Zoom bar gets tricky. So I'm going to use you, Hannah Colby, as an example. Here's the spreadsheet and I'm using the federal volunteer rate for 2021. You can track that if you want to click the link on that and track it. We are going to put this on our website locked. It will be locked, so only those with the email address are able to get in. In our website, typically under here, there's going to be a spreadsheets tab, and we wanted to make sure that you guys would be okay with that if we put this on locked. You're not going to be able to see any of these unless you are given permission, because these are all locked as well. However, we're hoping to put this match tracker on our website as well, using the email addresses that are causing that lock. So some of you have given us a letter of support, and we have the number for that letter of support along with a link to the letter that you provided and a way for us to track it. The LFPP is requiring us to do some significant tracking on our end of exactly what activities were in kind and what activities our contractors were doing. And so we wanted to make this as easy as possible. I was thinking that it would be easiest to just track things by the month. Maybe, Hannah, unless you did particular activities that were very specific to the LFPP, to the Farmers Market Hub project, then you can do it. I tried to make it as easy as possible. So you can say, hey, I was working on food access pathways. So a veggie RX conversation. And maybe that lasted 2 hours. It's automatically going to calculate that. And you can just say that was on, I don't know, March 8th. And then Hannah, it's going to automatically pull you down over here. So it's simple to track. I do have tabs for everybody that was participated, that gave us a letter of support, but also for the markets that didn't have letters of support, so that they can track and help us obtain those numbers of where, so we can come up with the numbers and be done tracking that support that's needed. I do know that several of you are on here from the Department of Agriculture, Lillian, and I saw that Shannon had left, but Shannon was in here. And so Lillian and Shannon will add you and you can start tracking those events as well, so that we can see that Department of Agriculture has completed some of that as well. And Lillian, we can talk later, but if you want us to change this to a separate doc, if you need the numbers need to be changed, I'm happy to do that. I just wanted to see, first of all, if you guys are okay with this going online locked, so it's only opening to your email addresses. And I guess I'll start there. I'm going to start with that question. Are you okay if we put that online so it's easier for you to have access to and track it on there? Then you don't have to go digging for it. Anna, I see you shaking your head. Tina, I see you shaking your head. That works. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Kristen thinks, but I didn't even know Nicollet Mankato, so I'd just be curious if you could show, would I have access to see that, or would Kristen? I mean, we're new to this, so if Leah, the previous ship coordinator, had done something with this group, we're totally not aware.
Yes, no problem. There is and I don't know if I turn it, that Zoom tab moves all around on me. I can drop this in the chat because each of you are in here at this point in time. You should be able to see this, and you can see the letters of support and the verifications. Let me know if you can't get in. I'm seeing several of you. And it might be that your link allows you to come in, but you can't edit it. And we're going to need you to be able to edit this one. So this way you can see your document. And then I want to show you the one other thing I'm going to share is that in the back, we have non-labor in kind. So I know, Hannah, I probably have it wrong. I think Jane keeps saying something about brick, and you have brick up in Aiken. Do you want to talk about what that is so other communities can think of ways that they can do things that would be in kind? And I threw that in as an example, but rooms also help and stuff like that. So I'm going to toss it over to you, Hannah, if you don't mind.
Yep. So Aiken County Care, they are an organization that helps elderly, usually above age 60, I think is the mark of their services. And so they got an MDH grant building resilient, inclusive communities, again, acronym for everything, right? In the public health world, it seems like. And so they received that. And with the BRIC grant, that is addressing food access, nutrition security, social isolation, to address that with social connectedness, and then also access to physical activity. And so the food hub fits right into nutrition security, access to food, local food. And so our food hub has been receiving additional support through the BRIC grant. And so that's just another leverage with non-labor in-kind funding that we've been able to tap into to advance the work here in Aiken County.
I love it. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. And you can put that in kind over here. So there's a non-labor in kind in the backside. And yeah, any other thoughts or questions on that tracking?
I think it's great and doable, and in Healthy Northland, with the region where Aiken County falls in, we do something similar with tracking. So it's just something, I'll just read input into the spreadsheet. So it's nothing like extra that I have to do personally as a SHIP coordinator for Aiken County with a reporting that we already have to do, just putting on another spreadsheet, which is fine.
You guys are awesome. I'm thinking that we can track it by the month. If you say you're doing a meeting, 6 hours of meetings this month or whatever it is. My goal is to just remind each of the SHIP coordinators when we get all of the markets together, the once a month that we're going to get our markets together. And I did not look that up. Jane, Jan, Kathy, does anybody know? Is that the Kathleen, second Tuesday of every month, 9 to 11? I closed Outlook and everything so that it wouldn't disturb my screen share. So I think the first one is April 12th. So it's going to be the second Tuesday of every month from 9 to 11. And I didn't want to invite everyone without explaining what that invite was. And I knew that with 10 hubs, several boards, the Renewing the Countryside, MFMA, and MESA staff and SHIP staff, we would just have a hard time settling on a date. So we just chose one, the second Tuesday of every month from 9 to 11. I will send you all a calendar invite if you can make it. Fantastic. Once a month, we're having that meeting, going around, finding out what's happening in each community and seeing ways that we can help connect and engage with our markets, see what their needs are, because they're going to express at that time where they got stuck, what obstacles they have, what wins they had in their community. Maybe, Anna, I heard from Amanda She's thinking through how it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for translation services, and she may need some assistance with translation services when it comes to getting the farmers on the platform. And that makes total sense. That's not something we wrote into the grant, so it might be a need she's going to look at in your community. And at that time, you're going to be hearing those kind of wins. We're also going to be talking about how maybe like Beverly in Wilmer is connecting with Head Start, and how she was able to succeed with that connection down in Head Start, and how that made an impact in her community. Or hearing how Aiken made this amazing connection with the elderly and getting the funding for those, I think it was CARES funding, right, Hannah? Yeah. And how we can make something like that impact the farmers markets that are all participating in this project. So that's what's going to happen with our once a month meeting. Lillian, I'd love to see you attending those to see how your work can embed into each of these projects as we're moving forward. We are working with several new farmers. We're working with diversity of farmers, a large diversity of farmers. 2 of the hubs that we're working on right now are actually like the village down in Rochester, which land access is an issue. And so these are farmers that don't have access to land that are looking to gain access, but until they have experience, they can't get that access because they're not going to get qualified for the loans. Is Moorhead the other one that's doing that, Jan? Working?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Moorhead is, yep.
And so they're also doing that. So we're working with 2 different communities that are building capacity among emerging farmers. And I think that's an awesome thing. Instead of looking at just regular market share boxes or Veggie RX boxes, we're looking at culturally appropriate boxes in some of those communities where they can grow products that aren't found at a typical farmer's market. That can't be sourced. And we're really excited about that. And that's what happens when you get these hubs all together and get these teams together. Taking a breath for silence. Anybody want to jump in from there?
Well, thank you, Sarah, for that very in-depth information on the work that you all are doing, which I think is really great. And of course, from my vantage point with the work that I'm currently doing with the agency is really, you know, like you're saying, advocating for emerging farmers, right? Whenever I say that, and being being a government staff and the distrust with government is kind of, it's some kind of iffiness there, but nevertheless, I think I credit the MDA with taking this step and being intentional in making sure that we are listening to farmers, and then of course having this office and so on. But like the journey still is, we still have a lot of work to do, right? You mentioned the village. Yes, I've had communications with folks at the village, and I do know that they do have a diversity of farmers there, and land access, market access are issues there. And so those are the issues that are plaguing emerging farmers: land access, capital, and just language needs and a host of other needs. So I'm happy to listen. I'm happy to see where those connections come, and I'm also happy to connect with emerging farmers, because internally we're looking at also the MDA's processes and procedures, you know, grants and all that stuff, and seeing how can we make that accessible to folks? What do we need to do as the MDA, but also with stakeholders like you guys, right? And I know we've worked with a lot of you all as stakeholders, and some of you have actually just moved on and developed or worked through other programs or other ways, creative ways to provide that access to emerging farmers. I'm looking at Jan because I attended a conversation and a talk that was actually so revolutionary in my mind, where they figured out a way to provide that land access opportunity to a family farm I don't want to go into the details. Don't want to take Jan's thunder. But those are things that, you know, from where I sit, we're looking at and going, wow, you know, that's great. That's really interesting. And how can we replicate that, or how can we make sure that information is out there, and how accessible is that opportunity and that design, right? And that goes back into the work you guys are doing here. Just from my own lived-in experience, when I go to farmers markets, much as I see some vendors who are vendors of color, but also just speaking on my own African immigrant community, I know there's different palettes and there's different products out there, and, you know, different, you know, like you said, Sarah, different foods, right? And trying to figure out, how do we get those to market? How do we create those CSA boxes that represent those foods, right? And how do we give those folks that opportunity to create that and expand that market access to those guys, but also just for the economic aspect of, you know, improving their economic well-being, but also the economic well-being of either the state or the market or that region. So long-winded saying, I'm happy to be here and looking forward to how we can connect. So thank you.
Thanks, Lillian. I too find it just to be so valuable. And I think each community we're going to learn from. And that's what I just find so much joy and so much passion in. We don't want to tell you we know all of these answers. We know all of that. We have a lot of resources, and we've got several years under our belt here. And we've done some tried and true practices. So we know things to say and things not to say when you're working with licensors. And there's tricks of the trade. Let me tell you, we're not holding or we're not storing produce, for example. Don't say that word. But just think through ways that we can work together and build this in community and learn from each other and empower each other with new ideas and ways to make this happen. Because it's really awesome having culturally relevant food market share boxes, for example, and working with, ideally, we work with the Mayo Clinic and find ways that we can connect and engage with Veggie RX that's more culturally relevant for those families in the community that are in need. And I can see that happening. Behind the scenes, we're also meeting with funders across the state that help with the Veggie RX program. Some of the different hospitals, Gunderson and Mayo and Fairview and Hunger Solutions and some of the food banks out there, because that's also going to help move this story forward. And so that's where we're at. Jane, you jumped in late, but I saw that you had unmuted. You had something to say.
Oh, I probably unmuted. Sorry, I probably unmuted by accident, but I was thinking as Lillian was talking that, you know, we also, those of us who are market managers are really cognizant that there are vendors in our markets who are either emerging farmers themselves or are eligible for SNAP, because, you know, farming isn't exceptionally lucrative. So there are a lot of young families and there are senior citizens. And I just always have it in my mind that, you know, a lot of our farmers who are participating in these markets and these hubs themselves are in need of services and help. And that's part of what our hubs do too, is making sure that we can connect the farmers to the resources they need. And, you know, that awareness that there is a SNAP program, that there is market bucks, that has really benefited some of our farmers to know that those programs are there and they can access them. So it's kind of wins all the way around.
Absolutely. I'm looking at adding you all to the monthly farmers market hub meeting as we speak. And I also want to You guys are being super quiet. I hit everything on the agenda. I wanted to share the resources that we have available with our online website. Let you know about that tracking spreadsheet. Run kind of through what our thoughts are for SHIP. A lot of what we stated in for our SHIP coordinators was that we were thinking about the things you're already doing. So you're already having those meetings in the community. You're already writing stories. You're already doing newsletters. If you can help us push some PR, do some promotion in the communities, helping us embed that farmers market hub out there so that if our market manager or hub manager doesn't have the capacity to spread the news on that, then you can help encourage them. Sales seems to be a really big piece of this. So understanding how to sell. It's not just having the organization behind running a hub, but also having that sales aspect. And so introducing them to who to talk to at the school. Sometimes it's not the food service director. Maybe it's the superintendent that is the one that needs to be gone to. But you want to also engage others than just the food service director or the superintendent, because if the food service director moves on, the program falls and it's gone. And so having others at the school to keep engaged in that is a really important piece. Lillian, what do you have in your mind? I appreciate this.
Now, I just have a question that I had while you were presenting. And I think when you showed a map of the farmers market locations that are, have taken advantage of this program. And I think you mentioned that some have stepped away. And I was just wondering, do you have any ideas or feedback on why they stepped away? And I asked this not knowing the structure of individual farmers markets and what those priorities are, what goes into, a market being able to take advantage of this opportunity.
Absolutely. So it's a really big ask in the community for a market manager. Oftentimes market managers are volunteer run. So markets are volunteer run. And so that's a really big lift for managers in communities. And the turnover is great for market managers, period. Thanks, Tina. I'm going to show the map so that I can talk about each of those hubs. So this is on our website. You can scroll down and see the map of the different hubs we're working with. Oh, I clicked it. So now it's going to bring us right out there. So the green one up here, Aiken, this one is Cook. Cook Farmers Market is relatively small, and we wanted to have a lot of increase in sales. And I think that Kelly up there that was working on this did such a great job in promoting it in his community. However, the sales didn't increase on an exponential basis, on an annual basis, and that made him feel concerned. And so he's still doing the farmers market hub, just not with the support of our project team. We're still having communication. I'm sure Jane is still communicating with him, but that is where he stepped away. Mankato and Richfield, both down here in the Minneapolis area, stepped away because their communities, their cities, so they have city-run farmers markets that are paid using city staff. So it's part of their park and rec department. And they said, look, we want to finance this as an asset to our community. So we're going to continue doing the farmers market hub, but we don't need additional funding or want to be told how and everything that we need to do. Obviously, we have spreadsheets for tracking and reporting purposes and team meetings that we do attend. And so they just wanted to continue doing it. They got up and running and continued doing it, but chose to keep going, just not participating in the project with us for this time. Rochester Farmers Market did it and did it so well, but they closed in the spring of 2021. And they did that because of a board vote. They have had a lot of turnover at their farmers market with their market managers, and with all of the turnover with their market managers, and the farmers market board was feeling overwhelmed in hiring both a new manager for the farmers market and a new manager for their hub. It was just too much, and they just didn't want to take that on. So that was just too big of a lift. Jane, this green dot is Who is this one? Finland. They've never
Oh,
been
yeah,
a
Finland. Yeah, sorry, Sarah, I'm on the road, so I can't really
Got
look
it.
at what you're.
Sorry. Oh, don't then. Definitely don't. Finland has never been a part of our project. They've done this on their own. Drive safe, Jane. They've done this on their own and they did a great job. They've been doing it on their own but have been working with Jane on getting some of the questions answered that they needed over there. So yeah, but great question, because you want to hear what those struggles are. We've always had some of those different struggles. It has not always been an easy process. And we definitely want to share those struggles so that we know how to go through those and navigate them in each of our communities. Excellent question. And it was interesting to see that we have several that have continued this on their own without grant funding, to see, because that's our goal, right? Is to get them sustainable in their communities so they can keep going. One of the things I do want to share, and Jane has done an incredible job putting these resources together, is while you're doing some different meetings with your managers in the communities, there's a ton of resources. Maybe you're curious about what questions to ask your buyers. So we have buyer surveys. There's container cleaning policies. There's so much info in here. So personal hygiene policies, produce standards, sales techniques when you're working with wholesale buyers, traceability. Look in here to see what documents. All of these were created as a part of our project. All of these have been vetted by many in the community, including the Department of Agriculture, as we were trying to navigate the licensing process. Inspection reports, examples of some inspection reports, licensing types, and understanding which licenses to get. So that's under documents. We talked about that sustainability. So the Food Finance Institute, we just did a training with this past week. So you can look up kind of what the average expenses are and what they talked about when we met with them on the sustainability piece. The LFPP has some more stuff like these PowerPoints that I've been walking through. So that introduction where we just did the ship piece of it, that's in that intro PowerPoint, and that first PowerPoint is that origin, but also some of those resources that are available out here so that we can help guide you and engage you through that. Here's that monthly manager meeting. So we're going to be doing the monthly manager meeting with notes, and you're going to be able to have access to the notes at all times right here. And then each hub is going to have their own spreadsheet and their own online sales platform. So you can see information on the sales platform. There's open office hours every Monday and Friday. We have videos on how to make it happen. And then that those spreadsheets I showed you, but we should probably add each of you to these individual project tracking sheets. What these are, I will open up Wabasha's as an example, is each of our markets are being asked to collect some data. You know, how much is how many vendors are participating each week? What was their total dollar in sales? So that we have a snapshot and can begin thinking through the impact of these hubs in each of the communities. So they're going to be putting these together. This spreadsheet is loaded, kind of like every spreadsheet that anybody deals with when they're working with Sarah George. Sorry about that. So it has a list of the farmers in the community. It has a list of the buyers that you're working with in the community support members, and so the team staff. Ideally, these are all filled out. I'm encouraging the new market manager in Wabasha to start working on this, and she's going to be working with me, so that's why it's not in there. But that buyer survey, so what questions do you ask when you're working with buyers? And we've pulled together a lot of great questions, and we have a link to a printer-friendly version of that. You know, I showed you in there that produce checklist or the product checklist. We changed it to product now because it's not just produce. We want to talk about herbs and eggs and meat and honey, maple syrup and dairy, maybe even specific about which meats you're working with. Cottage foods for anybody that is unfamiliar with cottage foods, and then licensed foods for baked goods. Let us know, we can talk to you. But those can go on our platform, and then that can be built into the supply and demand. The spreadsheet also has some sample pricing Because you saw that in that that PowerPoint that I showed about how that pricing can look. So I just put a copy of it in there so that it can be used for each community. I don't think there's any reason that you couldn't be added to this, so I can try and make that happen this evening and get you guys invited in there. Also in there is, I'll just open Red Wings financial forecast. And so what we did was looked at our hub rates. So we want to look at the forecast, like we got really deep. Okay, do we want to do, and down here in the yellow is the stuff we can edit. So when we're thinking about online, are we looking at retail orders? Are we looking at Veggie RX? Is there anything else we're looking at? Maybe we're looking at market share boxes. Red Wing is not. But identifying who your wholesale accounts are and who you'd like to work with and what those monthly sales are. If you want to get some sponsorships or some donations, and how that impacts your bottom line to make this community a sustainable market. It brings things all the way around. There's price lists and cost of goods sold and a lot of different assumptions. This is a huge spreadsheet that is way over my head, but each community is going to be putting together a sustainability plan that includes looking at something like this. Okay, if I was able to do those sales that I had envisioned or forecasted for this year, then at the bottom, I am going to see down here that I cannot, I'm not going to make things work. I am going to be short by 8,000. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I am going to make things work. It's going to work out in my community. I will have a net income of $8,470 in this community by having these different sales. But I'm going to need to increase my sales in 2023 and 2024. So our year 2 and year 3, I'm going to have to increase the sales by this much and able to make things work. And so, yeah, having those in each community is going to be something that we would be happy to begin. And I just wanted to share that with you as another resource that we have. There are so many existing resources, but I don't want to overwhelm you. Some of the lessons that we've learned are on this website. That's a Jane thing. She's done some amazing things. And so we talked about how we pivoted to retail. There's presentations on that. Vendors, the aspect from market standpoint, from vendor standpoint, the sales, the gross profit calculators, lots of stuff. But I think that's enough. I mean, you guys, I've been so much. Any additional questions or thoughts that you have for me? Because I could give you guys some time back of your day. Awesome. I'm so excited to work with each of you. I'll make sure that you get an invite and I'll add you to those spreadsheets. And I really appreciate this. I look forward to working with you and working with each of the hubs in the near future as you guys are navigating this process.
Sarah, do you have any idea when the Mankato Food Hub will be decided, if it's a yes or a no?
I do, Melissa. March 14th is the deadline to make a decision, yay or nay. And if they say yay, great. And if they say nay, then we move on to the next market.
Okay. And yeah, this has been like a little overwhelming for me, just like,
I'm
wow,
sure.
awesome work. And so I'm just kind of assuming maybe Kristen and our involvement with this group, is it kind of more pending on that Mankato Food Hub? Otherwise, I don't think any of the other food hubs are really near us.
That's correct. You would be connected to that Mankato market. So if they say yes, you'll help suss out that community support. And if they say no, you'll spend your time doing other things this lovely summer.
Okay.
Unless
And
you
like
want
Sarah said, a lot of times it's stuff we're already doing as ship coordinators.
Right.
So it's not like, oh,
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Tina. And that's so true. because you're already meeting and others in the community. You're already writing up ship stories and newsletters and posting to newspapers and Facebook pages. And so now you're just supporting it. You're going to add in that once a month meeting. And you're going to add in once a year, sitting down with the hub manager and writing up a sustainability plan, thinking through how you can strengthen that in your community and creating that connection. We would love to have your support when it comes to, the farmer buyer engagement, joining us on a farm tour or joining us on a speed dating adventure. Hannah created the coolest, I think it was Hannah that created it, Facebook event that's going to be taking place. I think Hannah just worked with Allison and with Willow and up there I'm trying to pull it up while I'm saying it. Here's our Farmers Market Hub Facebook page right there. And you're going to see the most recent farmer buyer meet and greet that's being promoted over there. I guess that's the Grand Rapids one. The same thing is happening over there in Aiken. Oh yes, that got posted. Brian posted that one. Thank you, Brian. But yeah, share that, like that page, follow it, and you're doing good. I think I can give you guys a half hour of your day back. Thank you all for your time. You have a phenomenal afternoon. I will invite you to each of those spreadsheets as promised. We will post your tracking spreadsheet to our online store, our online website, and we will get you the information that is out there. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. First time you cut something short.
Thanks.